What's up? I put a post up on Instagram offering my first Q&A that I'm doing for this YouTube channel. So here it is. This is the post. And let's just dive straight into it. Okay, Bobby Lit 13. Lit. Which type of training do you think is best? I don't think any specific training style is the best. It's very easy to amalgamate different training styles. So for example, you could be doing a conjugate style training system, 2 heavy days, 2 speed days, but then you could linear periodize that. So you could add weight each week, strip the volume each week, and you might also include some RP style stuff for your accessories. You know, you might do dumbbell work up to RP 8, for example. So there's no reason why you can't amalgamate them. You just gotta use whichever is best in the context. Bensonburgoyne, what are your plans competition-wise for 2017? At this stage, I'm not really sure. I've got a lot of things on personally, so I don't know exactly. Probably Lit again, steroids. Just how do you feel about them and if you'll ever take them? I'll never take them. I don't like them. I don't like that they exist in the first place. They take away from the challenges that are involved in sports. I don't like steroids. Merha, is your favorite color blue? Yes. Will you be attempting to go to the IPF Open Worlds in 2017? Maybe. I'd like to. Depends on a few things. There's not much support for equipped powerlifting in Australia. Anyway. Sk1, how do I turn fat into muscles? Same person. What deadlift shoes are you using? I use the Reebok CrossFit Lights. Mykpox. What type of mindset do you get into when preparing and during competition? I don't know, I'm just really focused. It's almost automatic. You kind of just do what you're doing. And the one thing that I try and teach a lot of people is to avoid wasting energy on useless stuff. So in the competition specifically, avoid getting too worked up, avoid listening to heavy music until it's time to lift, you know, like in between weigh-ins and lifting, just try and be as relaxed as you can. Jim Watson, by the looks of some of your videos, it seems like you have a flat feet. If so, how do they affect your powerlifting career? Yes, I'm slightly flat-footed. They have pretty much no influence on my lifting. The only thing is that I've got to do a little bit of extra glute activation just to prevent my feet from pronating. Christian, 172 centimeters tall in the 66 junior class. Should I go up? You should go up weight classes now to 74s, and you should go up 83s pretty soon. You're only 20 years old. You're too tall or you're too skinny really for your weight class or for your height. damoadamson, back squat variation, what percentages do you use? Everything relative to knee sleeves and belt. I'd say knee wraps are about plus 10%, no knee sleeves and no belt minus 5 to 10%. Flat shoes and heeled shoes pretty much makes no difference for me personally. I'm just more comfortable in heels. Etienne powerlifter, do you feel going back to equipped recently has helped your raw lift? I don't think equipped lifting will make you stronger for raw. If anything, it teaches you good lessons. So for example, with a heavy equipped squat, you have to have a really dialed in walkout. And then all of a sudden all your walkouts in raw become really easy. So it teaches you good lessons like that, about like technique and being precise, but no, it doesn't make you any stronger. Fit for growth. Do the knees have to always lock out before the hips in a sumo? No. Mid trip or hook grip? Definitely hook grip. What are the best resources to learn how to program by Joseph Paccio? There's plenty of stuff, true to bumper stuff. I'll link some stuff in the descriptions. Samkutipowerlifting powerlifting. Have you ever had long periods away from powerlifting due to lack of motivation? No, it's just a lifestyle, I just do it. Even if I don't feel like I'm motivated, I just end up going to the gym anyway and training. Akshayysoni, how do you improve your bench press if you're maintaining your weight? Progressive overload, doing enough volume. Any readings you suggest for understanding basics of biomechanics? First, you need to understand anatomy really well. I recommend Anatomy Without a Scalpel by, I forget who. I'll put that in the description. My girlfriend, long-time fan, first-time commenter. Why are you so damn fine? Thanks. Marcus, what advice would you give to someone who's not enjoying their training? Change things. That's the number one thing, change things. For me, that was doing equipped. Equipped's fun, it's new. Whether it's do some weightlifting training, do some bodybuilding, just do something different, something that's fun. Maybe a bit of CrossFit. Anything that'll kind of like give you a bit of a spark for motivation. Akshayysoni. Does deficit deadlift for sumo screw up sit up? Sort of. I don't like it. Not big deficits, very, very small deficits for sumo. Especially if you're lacking range of motion in the hips, not good. Leroy, how do you think Australia compares to the rest of the world in powerlifting? Would you say we're on the top tier? Relative to our population, Australia are actually very competitive in the world level. We're just too small, we've only got 20 million people. Compare that to like USA, that's got 15 million times the population. It's no wonder that they're a lot better than us at international level competition. What stretches do you do before getting ready to squat? Nothing, I pretty much just crack out my SIJ, crack out my back, foam roll my legs, and mobilize my ankles. So I wouldn't call any of that stretching, more mobs. Callum, what age did you first start proper powerlifting training? I was 19. What are your thoughts on trap bar deadlift as an accessory movement for deadlifts? Good learning tool for an absolute beginner. I don't know how I feel about them in a more intermediate or advanced powerlifting program. What are your goals for 2017 as a 74 kilo lifter? Number one goal is to match my best Wilks as a 66, but in the 74 class, I need a total like 692 and a half, roughly. Some Norwegian fellow. How do you manage to keep your bench press so stagnant? Cool. Some athletes are progressing really well. How is your tonnage, average intensity, blah, blah, blah. This gets asked a few times. The general answer I have is I don't have enough muscle mass in my upper body. I've got a long history of lower body athletics, so I did track and field and training in my lower body. I haven't really had that background in my upper body, so my upper body is just lagging. That will come in time when I chew through enough bodybuilding style training and foundational work. I kind of tried to advance myself too quickly by doing advanced style training in the upper body. I need to go back and do the basics. That's something I'm aware of. What nationality are you? I'm half Filipino, half Maltese, born in Australia. Best accessory for the sumo deadlift, the conventional deadlift. Is sumo really better? Yes. Do you look up to Steven Gerrard? Yes. What is the meaning of life? That's a good question. Deadlift as much as you can. If you train someone who never hits depth in comp, what advice would you give them? Strip the weight back, go lower, leave your ego at the door. Pretty standard stuff. J Ruck, would you shave all your body hair to make weight? No. Your body hair does not weigh very much. Klim, do you think low bar squatting in weightlifting shoes instead of flats can be more advantageous for someone who's quad dominant and has significant forward knee trouble? Also, do you think having conventional deadlifts as a part one, yes, to an extent, if you're limited in ankle mobility. Part two, yes, conventional is the best. Tom Schwartz, thoughts on singles in training, if and when, how to implement them? Singles are very good. They're easily the most specific thing you could possibly do in a powerlifting program. Depends on what kind of block you're in. If you're closer to comp, obviously go heavier. If you're further away from comp and doing a volume phase, I like to do singles at between 80 and 85% before doing the volume work. It's a good way to warm up. It's a good way to keep the skill high. And it's a good way to potentiate yourself before the volume work. CJ HPL, if you make it into the top 100 IPF international lifters for your weight class, do you fact even lift? Sure you do. I'm an intermediate powerlifter and I'm currently traveling the world. I don't have much access to stuff. Well, however, they all have what is needed. You can easily just follow a regular program if you're able to train regularly. I don't think, it doesn't sound like you have anything that's going to be too challenging in your programming. Into Chadgram, do you program sumo and conventional pullers the same? More or less, yes, except conventional pullers don't need to do as much volume, and you need to be cautious of how that person's squatting technique is, because you could overload their back if they do too much conventional volume and a lot of squatting volume if they're the back style squatter, like the forward leaners, like the Lane Nordens and the Jesse Norrises. Whereas if you're sumo, you're more upright, doesn't load the back as much. You can kind of get away with more sumo volume. JD strength. What 3 tips would you give to yourself as a novice lifter that you have learned over the years of training and competing? Do more volume in the upper body, do more conventional work, and do more prehab. Eric Omega. When all lifts feel way heavier than they look, feels like there is no clean reps left in the tank, but they look better, what would you advise? Is there something to worry about? No, everyone pretty much feels this way. It always looks better on camera than it feels for every lift. How much time do you spend warming up at the beginning of a workout? Probably about 5 minutes before I touch the bar, and then I do the bar for a few sets, and then I warm up. What's your nutrition diet like? I don't really have a diet, I just eat what I want. Yes. What do you think is the reason your bench press is lagging behind the other lifts? Not enough development in my youth. I answered this earlier. Thoughts on beltless work by Daniel 5119. Not necessary. They don't really increase core activation like some people think they do. I only ever do really beltless work for accessories, so things like front squats, maybe conventionals if you're a sumo puller. Tips on preventing rolling forward during deadlifts. I find that when shoulders come forward, my upper back begins to round. I don't think that's even a bad thing. Keep doing that. How to keep glutes on bench when using leg drive. Don't tense your glutes, tense your quads. When should you move up a weight class? When weight cutting becomes too hard, when you're at less than 5% body weight, when you've been lifting in the same weight class for 3 years and you're an intermediate. Best Parmigiana in Melbourne? Universal, maybe Gabby's in, you reckon? Universal?
Universal and Lygon.
Universal and Lygon there, says my sister. If a person's goal is to build strength and expand their base with squat, bench, dead, what's your perspective on necessity of a particular program? Would it suffice to train by intuition? I don't like training by intuition. You need to track your training, track your metrics, use my strength books. Derek NG, thoughts on improving speed off the floor for sumo deadlifts? Round your back more, but that comes at a consequence. Strong chocolate, things to help with faster recovery after training session. Eat more, sleep more, stretch maybe. Oscar Loser, what is the greatest lesson you've learned from a coach, mentor, role model? Wow, that's a good question. That's too long to answer. Maybe I'll do that as a separate thing. Dan Douglas, in a bench show, what do you think is more important for an opener? Fighting to touch with an easier press or an easier touch with a tougher press? I'd say the former. A harder touch, because if you don't touch and fail, you can just go up in weight anyway. But at least you've grooved that position in the shirt. Ian, how many kilos does your beard add to your total? Well, it's gone now, so rip fam. Sexy Cheeseburger, how do you program on a yearly basis and how does it change from beginner to advanced? Lots of volume when you don't have a competition coming up, less volume, more intensity when you have a competition coming up. Zeki74, is there a particular reason why you point your feet more forward in the squat, or is it personal preference? It feels good on my hips. Doesn't feel good on your hips, don't do it. As if I lift, what do you do in your off-season training? Lots of volume, lots of accessories. I probably only squat, bench, deadlift once a week, but then I do lots of other variations of squat, bench, deadlifts, like incline bench, close grip bench, conventional pulls, block pulls, deficit pulls, front squats, high bars, and for lots of sets, lots of reps. Qua dang, how do you increase your arch on the bench? Practice mobilizing thoracics. Do you track your volume in back training? No. Qua dang again, sumo and squat seem to tax hip flexors a lot. Have you ever had encountered this issue? Personally, you know, what did you do? I didn't do anything but mobilize your hip flexors, or mobilize your hips really, and stretch out your hip flexors. How strong were you when you started lifting? Were you exceptional or just average? I was average. I benched 75 in my first comp, squatted 160-ish, deadlifted 190-ish. Number 347, what's your thoughts on mixing hypertrophy and strength training? It's quite easy to do, often called power building. Shout out to Derek and Joey. Specifically in regard to an intermediate athlete that is looking to train with periodization, do you feel that they should be separate? They can be put together quite easily. Start your session with strength, finish with hypertrophy. Untouchable 456, I'm pissed as fuck right now. What's your favorite song? What is my favorite song? Don't Go Away by Oasis, as an all-time. If it's not R. Kelly, Ignition, then fuck you, sorry. Lift heavy life. How does one transition from low volume style training to high volume style training without just burying yourself? Make it a gradual process over a couple of months. Taurus Strong, what is one tip or trick you found is most effective over years for deadlifting programming? Higher frequency, more than people think you can get away with. You can probably deadlift 3 days a week as long as the intensity is controlled and volume. Thoughts on doing every other session sumo and conventional to become proficient? Definitely, that is a great idea. What areas do you feel are most important to include into a program for an intermediate lifter? High variety. Build a big base, become proficient in a lot of exercises, be good at safety bar squats, at front squats, at high bars, at narrow stance, at slightly wider stance, be proficient in a wide range of skills, and that applies for all 3 lifts. Yes Dog, what would be sufficient RP for volume? 6, even less maybe. Also, when maxing lifts for peaking, what kind of sets reps on high RP and how high should it be? 1 to 3 sets of 1 to 4 reps at RP 7 to 9. How the hell did you fit into your 34 squat suit? I needed help. Joel Lata, what's your opinion on cutting weight for equipped meets? Generally not a good idea. Even the small amount of weight I cutted last week made a difference in my squat suits. That guy, KC, how is female programming for powerlifting different than males? Girls just have to do more volume, especially in the upper body for bench. Angus, how you going? When to use heavy singles and doubles in training and how to structure them coming to a meet? You can pretty much use them all year round. However, then you might become desensitized to them. So I prefer to alternate periods of using singles and not using singles. Coming into a meet, I do singles, usually about 10% above what the volume of that session will be, just to increase skill acquisition in the competition lifts. Jason, knowing you've always struggled with bench, how have you attacked your weakness recently and how do you plan on improving in the future? Doing a lot more bodybuilding style training. This is something that I've neglected. I'm lazy, I don't like bodybuilding, but I know it's a necessity, so I'll do it. Uldred, transitioning from raw to equip but still wanting to progress in both. Want to do some equip meets. If you're not planning on doing equip comp for a long time, I recommend getting into your equipment once a month, doing heaps of raw work obviously, and as the meet gets closer, put on your equipment maybe once every week to 10 days, depending on the lift. Have you ever dealt with sciatica? No, unfortunately. What do you think will help it go away? See a specialist. Mikey 50, how has equipped lifting positively impacted your raw lifts? Teaches you to be a better lifter, be more precise, can't make as many mistakes, can't be as sloppy. Do you find keeping your torso tight easier due to the extra weight you're used to using with squatting? Not necessarily, it's quite different in a suit. Dylan Potter, how do you come about deciding to move up weight class when your strength is almost maxed out at that weight class and you're quite lean? Fire Simon, ideal number of times per week for bench and preference for each session, aka heavy, moderate, tech speed. 3 to 4 times is usually a good place to start for an intermediate to advanced. One kind of main heavy session, the rest of them are generally quite light and technique based, 3 count pause, maybe slow tempos, that kind of stuff, and more moderate weights. And last question, Ben Sellers, I would like to know what your sumo versus conventional 1RM is. Conventional about 250, sumo about 290, so pretty big discrepancy. I'm looking at swapping to them, just transition slowly. That's all the questions on the Q&A. Thanks to everyone who asked a question on my Instagram account. I know there was a lot to get through, so my answers might have been quite short and brief. If you'd like more detail, leave comments in the section below. If you'd like me to elaborate, I could probably even do separate videos on some of those topics because they were quite good questions. I will consider it if you ask for it. Thanks for watching. Make sure you click thumbs up and subscribe and share it. Thanks.